The silver blade pressed against my throat wasn't meant to kill me, it was meant to mark me as worthless forever. I knelt on the cold stone floor of the council chamber, my knees already numb from holding this position for what felt like hours. The 3 scars on my right cheek throbbed with each heartbeat, still tender from last month's Omega marking ceremony. Those parallel lines branded me as the lowest of the low in the Moonridge pack, but at least they were honest marks. What was coming next would be something else entirely. Kira Thorne. Alpha Marcus's voice boomed through the chamber, and I forced myself to look up at him. Even kneeling, I had to crane my neck to meet his gaze. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, his broad shoulders filling out his ceremonial black coat. Golden eyes that should have looked at me with love, or at least acceptance, held nothing but disgust. Do you understand why you're here? My throat felt like sandpaper. Because the moon goddess chose us as mates. Fated mates, Elder Cordelia corrected from her seat at the curved council table. Her gray hair was pulled back so tightly it seemed to stretch her weathered face. The bond cannot be denied or broken by mortal will. But Marcus stepped closer, and I caught his scent, pine and leather and something wild that made my wolf whimper inside my chest. Even now, even with hatred burning in his eyes, the mate bond pulled at me like a physical chain. Cannot be broken, he repeated slowly. But it can be rejected. The words hit me like ice water. Around the chamber, the 12 council members shifted in their seats. Some looked uncomfortable. Others seemed eager for what was coming. Marcus. My voice came out smaller than I intended. Please. I know my bloodline isn't pure, but... Isn't pure? He laughed, a sharp sound that echoed off the stone walls. Your grandmother was a rogue, Kira. Your mother ran with rogues before crawling back here pregnant with bastard children. Your very existence is an insult to this pack's bloodline. Each word was a knife twist. I'd grown up hearing whispers about my family, but no one had ever said it so bluntly. So publicly. The moon goddess made a mistake. Marcus turned to address the council rather than me. I, Alpha Marcus Blackwood of the Moonridge Pack, formally reject Kira Thorne as my mate. Let the pack witness that I choose strength over sentiment, purity over. Marcus, no. The words tore from my throat before I could stop them. The rejection hit like a physical blow. Pain ripped through my chest as the mate bond snapped, leaving a hollow ache where warmth should have been. I doubled over, gasping, as my wolf howled inside my head. When I finally managed to look up, Marcus was watching me with cold satisfaction. It's done. Not quite. Elder Cordelia's voice was soft, but it carried easily through the chamber. She rose from her seat and walked over to where I knelt, her ceremonial blade gleaming in her gnarled hand. The Forsaken Mark must be given. I'd heard stories of the Forsaken Mark, but they were old stories. Legends. No one had been marked Forsaken in over 50 years. Elder, please. I tried to keep the desperation out of my voice. I'll leave the pack willingly. You don't need to. The law is clear, she said, kneeling beside me. Her blade was different from the one she'd used for my Omega scars, longer, with a wicked curve. A rejected mate who brings shame to the pack must bear the mark of the Forsaken. The blade bit deep into my left cheek, much deeper than the traditional scars. I bit my tongue to keep from screaming as Cordelia carved a jagged line from my temple to my jaw. Blood ran hot down my neck, soaking into my white ceremonial dress. Let all who see this mark know that Kira Thorne is forsaken by her pack, rejected by her mate, and cursed by her own bloodline, Cordelia announced. She has 24 hours to leave Moonridge territory. Any who aid her after that time will face the same fate. The pain was overwhelming, but it was nothing compared to the sound of my pack, former pack, murmuring their agreement. These people had known me my entire life. They'd watched me grow up, seen me try so hard to prove my worth despite my Omega status. And now they were nodding as I was cast out like garbage. I stumbled to my feet, one hand pressed against my bleeding cheek. Marcus had already turned away, dismissing me like I'd never mattered at all. The council members wouldn't meet my eyes. Kira. The voice belonged to my younger brother Finn. He stood near the chamber's entrance, his face pale with shock. Kira, I'm so sorry. I didn't know they would. Stay away from me. The words came out harsh, but I couldn't bear the thought of him getting in trouble for showing me kindness. Forget you had a sister. I pushed past him and ran. The Shadowlands stretched before me like a dark ocean, their borders marked by a line of ancient standing stones that hummed with old magic. Most pack wolves wouldn't dare cross into that territory, it belonged to rogues and worse things. But I had nowhere else to go. Blood loss made me dizzy, and I stumbled more than once as I made my way deeper into the forbidden forest. The trees here grew differently than in pack territory, their branches twisted into unnatural shapes that blocked out most of the moonlight. Strange sounds echoed in the darkness, not quite wolf, not quite human. I don't know how long I walked before I saw the shrine. It stood in a small clearing, carved from black stone and covered in symbols I didn't recognize. The air around it felt thick, electric, like the moment before lightning strikes. My wolf paced nervously inside my head, torn between fear and curiosity. Come closer, a voice whispered, though I saw no one. I should have run. Every instinct I had screamed danger. But I was hurt and lost and more alone than I'd ever been in my life. The shrine offered something my pack never had, acceptance of the broken. My legs gave out when I reached the base of the monument. I collapsed against the smooth stone, my hand still pressed to my bleeding cheek. The symbols carved into the shrine seemed to pulse in rhythm with my heartbeat. Poor child. The voice was clearer now, definitely feminine, though it seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Cast out for the crime of being different. Marked as forsaken when you are anything but. Who's there? I whispered. I am what came before. What will come again? Something brushed against my wounded cheek, not fingers, but something cooler. The pain eased slightly. Your scars tell a story, little wolf. Not of shame, but of power waiting to wake. The bleeding had stopped. I pulled my hand away from my cheek and stared at my palm. The blood that coated it gleamed silver in the strange light emanating from the shrine. That's not possible, I breathed. Look at yourself, child. Really look. There was a pool of water at the shrine's base, so still it looked like polished glass. When I leaned over it, my reflection stared back, but it wasn't quite right. The forsaken mark on my cheek had healed into a silver scar that seemed to glow with its own light. And my eyes. My eyes weren't the gold of a typical werewolf anymore. They were silver. Bright, pure silver like moonlight on water. Silver eyes haven't been seen in 1,000 years, the voice whispered. Not since the first Luna walked among the packs. I touched the surface of the water, and ripples spread outward like liquid mercury. What's happening to me? What should have happened long ago? Your bloodline isn't tainted, sweet child. It's ancient. Powerful. The very thing that makes them fear you is what will make you unstoppable. The forest around me had gone completely silent. Even the wind had stilled. But power comes with choice. You can use what awakens in you to save the werewolf world, or you can watch it all burn. I stared at my silver-eyed reflection, and for the first time since the rejection, I felt something other than pain. I felt dangerous. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. 3 years. 3 years since I'd knelt bleeding on that council chamber floor, and I still woke up some mornings reaching for my cheek, expecting to feel fresh wounds. Instead, my fingers found smooth leather. The mask had become as much a part of me as the scars it concealed, black leather tooled with silver thread that covered the left side of my face from temple to jaw. To the supernatural community, I was known only as the Scarred Hunter. They didn't need to know the broken Omega girl I used to be. I crouched on the fire escape outside the Chicago high-rise, watching my target through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Vincent Carrera paced his penthouse office like a caged animal, which wasn't far from the truth. The beta werewolf had been smuggling cursed artifacts through his shipping company, and 3 people were dead because of it. His pack had disowned him. Now it was my job to bring him in. The cool October wind carried the scent of the city, exhaust, steel, and thousands of humans who had no idea monsters lived among them. But underneath it all, I caught something else. Something that made my wolf stir uneasily. Lunar silver. I'd only encountered the mythical metal twice before, and both times had nearly killed me. Regular silver burned werewolves, but lunar silver did something worse. It prevented healing, leaving permanent scars on our souls as well as our bodies. Most believed it was just a legend. Most were wrong. Vincent had stopped pacing and was now talking on his phone, gesturing wildly. Even through the glass, I could hear the panic in his voice. Whatever had him spooked, it wasn't me. Not yet. I pulled my hood up and prepared to move, but then Vincent went completely still. The phone slipped from his fingers and clattered to the marble floor. His eyes rolled back, showing only white, and when he opened his mouth, black smoke poured out. What the hell? I breathed. The smoke formed shapes, twisted, writhing forms that looked almost like faces. Vincent's body convulsed once, twice, and then he collapsed. The smoke dissipated, leaving nothing but the stench of sulfur. My phone buzzed. A text from my contact at the Supernatural Crimes Division. Emergency. 3 Alpha murders, same MO, need you in Montana ASAP. Montana. My blood went cold. Montana meant Moonridge territory. I'd spent 3 years avoiding that place, building a new life as far from my old pack as possible. I had clients across the country now, supernatural beings who paid well for my particular skills. Tracking rogue werewolves was dangerous work, but I'd learned to be more dangerous. But 3 dead alphas changed everything. Alpha murders were rare, pack leaders were too powerful, too well protected. If someone was hunting them specifically, it meant war was coming. I looked back through the window. Vincent's body lay motionless on the expensive rug, and I could smell death even from here. Whatever had killed him wasn't natural. It wasn't even supernatural in the usual sense. My silver eyes, hidden behind dark contacts during the day, began to burn. The sensation usually meant danger, but lately, it had been happening more often. Along with the visions. I shook my head and focused on the task at hand. Montana could wait until I'd dealt with Vincent. Except when I broke into his penthouse 30 minutes later, his body was gone. Nothing remained but a burn mark on the floor shaped like a perfect circle. The flight to Montana gave me time to read through the case files my SCD contact had sent. 3 alphas dead in 2 weeks, David Crane from the Silver Ridge Pack, Elena Vasquez from Mountain Wind, and most recently, Thomas Reeve from North Point. All found with their throats torn open, but not by claws or teeth. The wounds were too clean, too precise. And in each case, traces of lunar silver had been found in the victim's bloodstream. I'd been tracking supernatural criminals for 3 years, but I'd never seen anything like this. Someone wasn't just killing alphas, they were using the rarest, most dangerous material in the werewolf world to do it. But who had access to lunar silver? And why target pack leaders? The private jet touched down at Kalispell just after sunset. I'd arranged for a rental car and a motel room under one of my many aliases. As far as anyone knew, the Scarred Hunter was just another bounty hunter following a trail. No one would connect me to Kira Thorne. At least, that was the plan. The Rocky Mountain Motel sat on the outskirts of town, the kind of place that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions. Perfect for someone who needed to stay invisible. I was checking in when the desk clerk, a nervous-looking human who reeked of cigarettes and fear, handed me a note along with my key. Room 237. Come alone. M. My blood turned to ice. Only one person had ever signed notes to me with just an initial, and he was the last person I wanted to see. But Marcus Blackwood wasn't the type to make idle threats. If he knew I was here, I needed to know why. Room 237 was at the far end of the building, away from the main office and the highway. Smart. Private. I checked my weapons, silver-lined throwing knives, a gun loaded with blessed bullets, and the small vial of holy water I kept for emergencies. None of it would help much against a full alpha, but it might buy me time to run. I knocked twice and stepped back, my hand resting on the hilt of my largest knife. The door opened, and Marcus Blackwood stood before me. 3 years had changed him. He was still tall, still broad-shouldered, still devastatingly handsome in that dangerous way that made smart women do stupid things. But there were lines around his golden eyes now, and his black hair was shot through with premature silver. He looked older. Tired. "Hello, Kira." The sound of my real name on his lips made my chest tighten. I'd worked hard to bury that broken girl, but one word from him brought her rushing back. "I don't know anyone by that name." I kept my voice level, professional. "You've got the wrong person." "Do I?" He stepped aside, gesturing for me to enter. "The Scarred Hunter. Mysterious rogue tracker who always works alone, never shows her face, and has an unusual talent for finding things others can't. You've built quite a reputation." I didn't move. "What do you want, Marcus?" "To talk. To explain." His voice dropped. "To apologize." That last word hit me like a physical blow. In all my fantasies of confronting him, and there had been many, I'd never imagined him apologizing. 3 years too late, I said, but I stepped into the room anyway. The motel room was standard cheap accommodation. 2 beds, a small table, generic landscape paintings on the walls. Marcus had clearly been here for a while. Maps were spread across the table, marked with red X's and connected by lengths of string. It looked like a conspiracy theorist's wet dream. "You've been tracking the Alpha murders," I observed. "Among other things." He closed the door and turned to face me. "I've been tracking you, too." My hand went to my knife again. "Why?" "Because I need your help." He moved to the table and picked up a leather-bound book I hadn't noticed before. It looked ancient, its cover worn smooth by countless hands. "Have you ever heard of the Umbral Prophecy?" I had, vaguely. One of the old stories my grandmother used to tell before she died. Something about darkness rising and silver light saving the world. Typical prophecy nonsense. "Fairy tales," I said. "I used to think so too." Marcus opened the book and turned it toward me. The pages were covered in symbols I recognized from the shrine in the Shadowlands, written in what looked like blood. Until 3 months ago, when pack seers across the continent started having the same vision. A great darkness stirring beneath the earth. Ancient chains breaking. And at the center of it all, a silver-touched Omega who would either save us or damn us. My heart started beating faster. There are no silver-touched wolves. That bloodline died out centuries ago. Did it? He looked at me intently. Or did it just learn to hide? I turned away, walking to the window. Outside, the Montana wilderness stretched toward the Shadowlands, dark and mysterious under the star-filled sky. Even if I believed you, which I don't, what does this have to do with the Alpha murders? Someone is collecting pack leaders for a ritual. Not just killing them, their souls are being bound to lunar silver weapons. Marcus came to stand behind me. I could feel the heat of his body, smell that pine and leather scent that still made my wolf whimper. The prophecy says 13 alphas will die before the darkness is fully awakened. We're up to 3. I processed this information, trying to ignore the way my pulse quickened with him so close. "And you think I can stop it because of some ancient fairy tale?" "I think you can stop it because you're stronger than you know." His hand touched my shoulder gently. "I made a mistake 3 years ago, Kira. The biggest mistake of my life." I spun around to face him, anger flaring hot in my chest. "A mistake? You rejected me in front of the entire pack. You let them mark me as forsaken and cast me out like I was nothing. Because I was terrified." The words exploded from him. "Do you think I wanted to reject my mate?" Do you think I enjoyed watching them carve up your face? His hands fisted at his sides. I was 25 years old and barely holding my pack together after my father's death. The council told me that accepting a tainted mate would show weakness, that other packs would see it as an invitation to attack. So you chose politics over me. I chose my pack's survival. Or so I thought. His voice grew quiet. I didn't realize that rejecting you might doom us all. Before I could respond, pain exploded through my skull. Not physical pain, something deeper, more primal. The world around me dissolved, replaced by a vision so vivid I could taste the ash in the air. Darkness. Ancient stone corridors carved deep beneath the earth. Chains forged from starlight lay broken on the ground, and something vast and terrible was stirring in the depths. Red eyes like burning coals opened in the blackness, and a voice like grinding stone whispered, "The silver-touched awakens. Soon, the binding will break, and the mortal world will burn." I gasped and found myself on my knees, Marcus holding me steady. My contacts had fallen out, and I could see the shock in his eyes as he stared into my undisguised silver gaze. "It's true," he breathed. "You really are silver-touched." "I don't know what I am." I pulled away from him and staggered to my feet. "But I'm starting to understand that I can't run from it anymore." My phone buzzed with another text from the SCD, 4th Alpha down. Jennifer Morgan, Blue Mountain Pack. Same MO. 4 down. 9 to go. I looked at Marcus, at the maps and prophecies spread across the table, at the desperate hope in his golden eyes. 3 years ago, I'd been a broken Omega with nothing left to lose. Now I was something else entirely, something dangerous and powerful and possibly the only thing standing between the world and whatever was stirring in the darkness beneath the Shadowlands. "If we're doing this," I said finally, "we do it my way. No pack politics, no councils, no ceremonies. Just us and whoever's stupid enough to try stopping us." Marcus nodded. "Agreed." "And Marcus?" I met his eyes directly, letting him see the silver fire burning in mine. "If you betray me again, I'll kill you myself." He didn't flinch. "Fair enough." Outside, storm clouds were gathering over the mountains, and in the distance, I could swear I heard something howling that wasn't quite wolf and wasn't quite human. The visions were getting stronger, and with them, the strange new power that seemed to flow through my veins like liquid moonlight. Whatever was coming, we were running out of time to stop it. And I was starting to suspect that the broken girl who'd fled into the Shadowlands 3 years ago had been running toward this moment all along. The darkness was stirring, the prophecy was unfolding, and somehow, inexplicably, I was at the center of it all. Time to find out just how dangerous a scarred Omega could be. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 3. The Midnight Moon Pack's territory stretched across a valley so beautiful it almost made me forget why I was here. Almost. But the scent of fear and something darker, something rotten beneath the surface, reminded me that even paradise could hide monsters. I adjusted the simple brown dress I wore and touched the leather satchel hanging at my side, filled with genuine healing herbs and supplies. My mask was gone, replaced by a glamour spell I'd learned from a witch in New Orleans. To anyone looking, I appeared as Elena Cross, a traveling healer with warm brown eyes instead of silver and unmarked skin instead of scars. The magic made my head ache, but it was necessary. Marcus had wanted to come with me, but we'd agreed that his presence would raise too many questions. The Blackwood family ruled 3 packs in this region, and political tensions ran high. Better for me to infiltrate alone while he tracked the killer from the outside. The pack's main settlement looked like something from a fairy tale, log cabins and stone cottages scattered around a central square, smoke rising from chimneys, children playing in the afternoon sun. If I hadn't known better, I might have thought this was just a quaint human town tucked away in the Montana wilderness. But the security was too tight. Guards stationed at every entrance, patrol routes that overlapped with military precision, and an underlying tension that made my wolf pace restlessly. This pack was preparing for war, even if they didn't know it yet. Miss Cross? A young woman approached me as I entered the square, her smile warm but wary. She had the lean build of a warrior and the alert eyes of someone who'd seen too much violence. I'm Sarah, the Alpha's Beta. We received your message about offering healing services. Word travels fast. I returned her smile, letting just a hint of my natural confidence show through the healer persona. I heard your pack has been dealing with some unusual illnesses lately. Sarah's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. Nothing we can't handle. But Alpha Damon thought it might be wise to have an outside perspective. She gestured toward the largest building in the settlement, a 2-story log structure that radiated power. He's waiting for you in the pack house. As we walked, I studied the pack members going about their daily business. They looked healthy enough on the surface, but something was off. Their movements were too precise, almost mechanical. Their scents carried an underlying chemical tang that made my nose wrinkle. And their eyes. Their eyes held a glassy quality that reminded me of the possessed humans I'd encountered in Detroit last year. Here we are, Sarah said, opening the pack house door. Alpha Damon, this is Elena Cross. The man who rose from behind the massive oak desk took my breath away, and not in a good way. Damon Blackwood looked exactly like his older brother had at that age. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of rugged handsomeness that belonged on magazine covers. But where Marcus's eyes held gold flecks that caught the light, Damon's were pure amber, and they burned with an intensity that made my wolf whimper. He was also absolutely, unmistakably my mate. The bond hit me like a lightning strike, flooding my system with warmth and recognition and a desperate, clawing need that I'd felt only once before. 3 years ago, when another Blackwood brother had shattered my heart into pieces. No. No, no, no. This couldn't be happening. The moon goddess had a seriously twisted sense of humor. Miss Cross. Damon's voice was deeper than Marcus's, rougher around the edges. Thank you for coming. I know traveling healers usually avoid pack territories. I fought to keep my expression neutral while my heart hammered against my ribs. I go where I'm needed, Alpha. And from what I've heard, your pack could use some help. Please, call me Damon. He moved around the desk, and his scent hit me full force, cedar and rain and wild spaces. My knees nearly buckled. My mate Elena has been handling most of our medical needs, but lately. He trailed off, running a hand through his dark hair. We've had some concerning symptoms among the pack members. Fatigue, mood changes, memory issues. I see. I managed to keep my voice steady. And when did these symptoms first appear? About 6 months ago, right around the time Elena started her new wellness program. A beautiful woman glided into the room, and I knew immediately that this was Luna Elena. She was everything I wasn't, tall and elegant, with platinum blonde hair and blue eyes that sparkled with what looked like genuine warmth. I'd been developing natural supplements to help our pack members reach their full potential. The chemical scent I'd noticed earlier was stronger around her, hidden beneath expensive perfume and the natural musk of a powerful wolf. My silver eyes, hidden behind the glamour, began to burn with warning. How thoughtful, I said carefully. What kind of supplements? Oh, various herbal blends. Ginseng for energy, ginkgo for mental clarity, some traditional pack remedies passed down through my family. Elena moved to stand beside her mate, one perfectly manicured hand resting on his arm. Though I must admit, I'm curious about your methods. It's not often we see traveling healers in these parts. There was something in her tone, a subtle challenge that made my wolf's hackles rise. But before I could respond, Damon stepped forward. Perhaps you could examine some of our affected pack members, he asked. I'd value your professional opinion. Of course. I focused on him, trying to ignore the mate bond that pulled at me like a physical force. Though I should mention, I prefer to work alone during my initial assessments. It helps me form unbiased conclusions. Elena's grip on Damon's arm tightened almost imperceptibly. I don't think that's necessary. Actually, that makes sense, Damon interrupted gently. You know these people too well to be objective, love. Let Miss Cross do her job. The look Elena shot me over her mate's shoulder was pure venom, there and gone so quickly I almost missed it. But my wolf caught it, and she snarled in response. Careful, I warned myself. Something's very wrong here. Over the next 3 days, I examined dozens of pack members under the guise of routine health checks. What I found made my blood run cold. Every single person who'd been taking Elena's supplements showed signs of spiritual contamination. Their auras were muddy, shot through with dark threads that pulsed like infected wounds. Worse, there were gaps in their memories, clean, surgical holes where experiences should have been. They were being prepared. Hollowed out and conditioned to accept foreign entities into their bodies. But for what purpose? I was pondering this question while reviewing my notes in the small cabin they'd provided for me when a knock interrupted my thoughts. Come in. Damon entered, carrying a tray with 2 cups of tea and what looked like homemade cookies. The domestic gesture was so at odds with his imposing presence that I almost smiled. I thought you might be hungry, he said, setting the tray on my small table. Elena baked these this afternoon. Her chocolate chip cookies are legendary in the pack. I accepted the tea gratefully but left the cookies untouched. Elena's cooking was the last thing I wanted to try. Thank you. How are you feeling? Have you been taking the supplements as well? No, Elena says they're not necessary for alphas. Our natural constitution is already optimal. He settled into the chair across from me, his amber eyes studying my face intently. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone older. More clinical. He leaned forward slightly. There's something about you, Elena. Something that makes my wolf restless. The mate bond hummed between us, and I saw the exact moment he began to recognize what it meant. His eyes widened slightly, his nostrils flaring as he caught my scent beneath the glamour. That's impossible, he breathed. Before I could respond, the cabin door burst open and Luna Elena stormed in, her blue eyes blazing with fury. Get away from her, she snarled at Damon, her perfect composure finally cracking. She's not who she claims to be. Damon rose slowly, confusion and dawning understanding warring on his face. Elena, what? She's Kira Thorne, Elena spat. The cursed Omega from Moonridge. Marcus's rejected mate. The glamour shattered like glass, revealing my true face, scars and all. Damon's sharp intake of breath was audible in the sudden silence. Hello, Damon, I said quietly. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. You're... He stared at me, taking in the forsaken mark, the silver eyes I no longer bothered to hide. You're my brother's rejected mate. Yes. I stood, my hand moving instinctively to the knife at my hip. And apparently, through some cosmic joke, I'm also yours. Elena laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. Oh, this is perfect. The precious Blackwood bloodline, cursed to be mated to the same worthless Omega. She turned to Damon, her expression softening into desperate pleading. Darling, you have to reject her. Just like Marcus did. She'll destroy everything we've built here. Elena. Look at her. Elena's voice rose to near hysteria. She's nothing. A scarred, broken thing that brings shame to any pack that claims her. You're an alpha, Damon. You deserve better. Each word hit like a physical blow, bringing back memories of the council chamber, of kneeling on cold stone while the people I'd trusted destroyed me. But I wasn't that broken girl anymore. You're right about one thing, I said, my voice deadly calm. I am scarred. But not broken. My eyes began to glow, silver light spilling from them like moonbeams. And definitely not worthless. Elena took a step back, genuine fear flickering across her face. Stay away from me, freak. I don't think so. I moved toward her, power crackling around me like electricity. See, I've been wondering who's been poisoning your pack members. Who's been feeding them those supplements laced with dark magic? Who's been preparing them as vessels for something evil? You don't know what you're talking about, Elena said, but her voice shook. Don't I? I held up a small vial filled with black powder. I found this hidden in your private study. Essence of Wraith, if I'm not mistaken. Nasty stuff. Burns out a person's natural spiritual defenses, makes them susceptible to possession. Damon's head snapped toward his mate. Elena, what is she talking about? She's lying. Elena backed toward the door, her perfect mask finally slipping completely. She's trying to turn you against me. Tell him about the deal you made, I pressed, following her step for step. Tell him about the ancient things sleeping beneath the Shadowlands. Tell him what you promised it in exchange for immortality. Elena's face went bone white. How could you possibly? Because I've seen it in my visions. A darkness older than civilization, imprisoned by bonds of starlight and silver. It's been whispering to people for centuries, promising power to anyone willing to serve it. My silver eyes blazed brighter. And you listened. You don't understand. Elena spun toward Damon, tears streaming down her face. I was dying. The healers said I had maybe 6 months. That thing, it offered me eternity with you. All I had to do was prepare a few dozen hosts for its servants. Hosts, Damon repeated, his voice hollow. You mean our pack members? They would have been honored to serve a higher purpose. You poisoned them. The temperature in the room dropped as Damon's alpha power flared. You've been slowly killing our people to save yourself. Elena's expression hardened. And I'd do it again. I love you too much to let death part us. She pulled something from her coat, a blade that gleamed with unnatural light. Lunar silver, forged into a dagger and inscribed with symbols that hurt to look at directly. If I can't have immortality, she said, raising the weapon, at least I can rid the world of this abomination. Elena lunged at me with inhuman speed, the lunar silver blade aimed at my heart. But my power erupted instinctively, silver light exploding from my skin like a supernova. The light caught Elena mid-strike, wrapping around both of us in chains of pure energy. I felt her soul slam into mine with brutal force, our essences tangling together in ways that shouldn't have been possible. Suddenly I was seeing through her eyes, feeling what she felt. The terror of her cancer diagnosis. The desperate love for Damon that had driven her to make an unthinkable bargain. The corruption that had slowly eaten away at her humanity as dark magic poisoned her from within. And she was seeing me, the broken girl kneeling before the Moonridge Council, the lonely years of exile, the transformation into something powerful and dangerous. She felt my pain, my fear, my desperate desire to be worthy of love. What have you done? Elena gasped, the lunar silver dagger clattering to the floor. I stared at her in horror, feeling the alien presence of her consciousness nestled alongside my own. I don't know. Damon rushed forward, but stopped short when he saw the silver cord connecting us, visible now, pulsing with shared life force. We're bound, I whispered, realization hitting me like ice water. Our souls are linked. Elena touched her chest, her face pale with shock. I can feel you inside my head. And I can feel you. I pressed my palms against my temples as her memories crashed into mine. Every lie you've told, every innocent person you've corrupted. It's all here. Can it be undone? Damon asked, his voice carefully controlled. I looked at him through silver eyes that burned with power I barely understood. I don't know. This has never happened before. Elena doubled over suddenly, gasping in pain. A heartbeat later, the same agony tore through my chest. Whatever bound us now, it was complete. Her pain was mine, and mine was hers. The pack, I managed between gritted teeth. We have to stop what's coming. The possessed pack members are already changing, Elena finished, her eyes wide with terror. I can feel them stirring. The dark spirits are taking hold. Through the cabin window, I could see pack members stumbling from their homes, their movements jerky and unnatural. Their eyes glowed red in the gathering dusk. The vessels were awakening, and we were running out of time. Damon looked between us, his corrupted mate and the silver-touched Omega who might be their only hope, and made a choice that would define everything that came after. Then we stop this together, he said grimly. All of us. I nodded, feeling Elena's reluctant agreement through our twisted bond. Whatever else happened, whatever the cost, we couldn't let the darkness spread beyond this valley. The real battle was just beginning. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. The psychic bond with Elena was like having someone else's nightmare playing on repeat inside my head. As we barricaded ourselves in the pack house, her memories crashed into mine in waves, each one revealing another piece of a conspiracy that stretched back centuries. The voice came to me in dreams first, Elena's memory whispered as I watched through her eyes. A thing of shadow and hunger, promising eternal life, eternal beauty, eternal love. All I had to do was weaken the barriers. Just a few small cracks in ancient protections. I gasped, jerking back to the present as Damon finished boarding up the last window. Outside, the sounds of chaos grew louder, inhuman howls, the crash of breaking glass, screams that cut off too abruptly. How many? Damon asked grimly, checking his weapon, a shotgun loaded with blessed silver shells. 37 pack members took the supplements regularly, Elena whispered, her face pale with horror as she felt my revulsion through our bond. They're all changing now. Through the connection, I could sense them, twisted versions of the people I'd examined just days ago. Their souls were being pushed aside, making room for something ancient and hungry. The Void Walker's servants, finally given flesh to inhabit. There has to be a way to reverse this, Damon said, desperation creeping into his voice. Some kind of antidote or... There is no antidote for what she's done, I interrupted, silver light flickering around my fingertips as another wave of Elena's memories hit me. She didn't just poison them. She marked them. Carved pathways into their souls for these things to follow. The ritual blade, blessed in blood and shadow. Each supplement contained not just chemicals, but fragments of the Void Walker's essence. Building bridges between dimensions, one dose at a time. I didn't know. Elena's voice cracked. It told me they would just be dormant. Sleeping hosts in case of emergency. It never said. It lied, I said flatly. Ancient evils tend to do that. A crash from the front of the building made us all freeze. Something was testing the barriers, looking for weak points. Through the psychic bond, I felt Elena's terror spike, and with it came another flood of memories. But this time, they weren't hers. Starlight and silver, woven into chains stronger than diamond. The Void Walker screaming as ethereal bonds wrapped around its essence, dragging it down into darkness. And standing at the center of it all, a woman with silver eyes and scars that glowed like molten metal. You are bound, destroyer of worlds, by blood and sacrifice, by light and shadow. Sleep now in the deep places, and trouble this realm no more. The woman turned, and I saw her face, my face, or close enough. The same bone structure, the same defiant chin, the same silver fire burning in her eyes. Oh God, I breathed, understanding hitting me like a physical blow. I'm not just some random Omega with strange eyes. Elena's stolen memories continued flowing, revealing truths I'd never imagined. The Silver Guardians, not a legend, but a real bloodline. Warriors bred specifically to contain entities that threatened the balance between worlds. Each generation produced one guardian, marked with ritual scars that served as living seals. The Forsaken mark, I whispered, touching my cheek. It's not a mark of shame. It's the final seal. What are you talking about? Damon demanded, but his words were almost drowned out by the sound of splintering wood as something large threw itself against the front door. My scars aren't random, I said, pieces falling into place with terrifying clarity. They're part of an ancient binding spell. Each one represents a lock on the Void Walker's prison. And every time I've used my power, every time the silver light has flared. You've been weakening them, Elena finished, her eyes wide with horror. That's why it wanted me to find you. Not to kill you, but to... The front door exploded inward. 3 figures stood in the doorway, but they weren't the pack members I'd known. Their bodies were twisted, stretched into inhuman proportions. Their skin had taken on a gray, mottled appearance, and their eyes burned with red fire. When they opened their mouths, voices like grinding stone poured out. Silver Daughter, they said in unison. The destroyer awakens. The seals crumble. Soon, all worlds will burn in glorious darkness. Damon fired his shotgun, blessed silver tearing through the lead creature's chest. It staggered but didn't fall, black ichor pouring from the wound like tar. The flesh is temporary, the creatures laughed. But the destroyer is eternal. My power flared instinctively, silver light blazing from my scars. The possessed pack members shrieked and fell back, their stolen bodies smoking where the light touched them. But I could feel it, each use of my abilities weakened the seals further. I was caught in an impossible trap, needing power to fight but knowing that every use brought us closer to complete disaster. There has to be another way, I muttered, but Elena's memories were already showing me the truth. Only the Guardian's willing sacrifice can restore the seals. Blood freely given, life freely offered, soul freely surrendered to maintain the balance. No, Damon said sharply, somehow reading my expression. Whatever you're thinking, no. You don't understand. I understand enough. He grabbed my shoulders, his amber eyes fierce with determination. I just found you. I'm not losing you to some ancient obligation. The mate bond hummed between us, warm and strong despite everything falling apart around us. For a moment, I let myself imagine what it would be like, having a pack again, belonging somewhere, being loved for who I was instead of feared for what I might become. Then Elena screamed. The sound wasn't entirely human. It started as a cry of pain but morphed into something else. A harmony of voices that shouldn't have been able to come from one throat. When I spun toward her, her eyes had gone completely black. Too late, she said, but the voice wasn't hers anymore. The barriers fall. The seals crack. Soon, the destroyer will walk free, and all your little lights will be snuffed out like candles in a hurricane. Power exploded from Elena's body, dark energy that made the air itself seem to writhe. The possessed pack members straightened, their wounds healing as more of the Void Walker's essence poured into them. Elena. Damon moved toward his mate, but I caught his arm. That's not Elena anymore, I said grimly. That's our real enemy. The thing wearing Elena's face turned toward us, and I felt our psychic bond twist into something obscene. Through the connection, I could sense the Void Walker's true nature, not just evil, but the absence of everything good. It was entropy given form, the heat death of the universe compressed into a single, malevolent intelligence. Hello, little guardian, it whispered directly into my mind. Thank you for weakening the seals so beautifully. A few more uses of your power, and I'll be free to finish what I started eons ago. What did you start? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Elena's mouth curved in a smile that belonged on no human face. The remaking of everything. I am the void between stars, the darkness between heartbeats, the silence after the last breath. When I am fully free, I will show this universe what true emptiness feels like. More possessed pack members poured through the broken door, their numbers growing as the Void Walker's influence spread. Soon, we'd be completely surrounded. That's when the howl echoed across the valley, deep, commanding, and unmistakably alpha. My heart jumped as I recognized Marcus's voice raised in the ancient call to battle. Your brother, I said to Damon. He nodded grimly. He was always dramatic. The sound of vehicles approaching filled the night, followed by the distinctive crack of gunfire. Marcus had brought an army. This is perfect, the Void Walker laughed through Elena. Let them come. More flesh for my servants, more souls to corrupt. But I was already moving, silver light building around me despite the risk. Damon, get to the roof. Signal Marcus, tell him to target anyone with red eyes. What about you? I looked at Elena, feeling the psychic bond between us pulsing with dark energy. The Void Walker was using our connection as a conduit, drawing power from my scars to fuel its manifestation. But bonds worked both ways. I'm going to do something stupid, I said. Before Damon could stop me, I lunged at Elena, grabbing her arms and pouring every ounce of silver light I possessed into our psychic link. If the Void Walker wanted to use our bond against us, it would have to deal with the consequences. The entity shrieked as pure guardian light flooded through Elena's stolen body. For a moment, I saw my friend's true face beneath the possession, terrified, sorry, begging for forgiveness. Help me, she whispered through the connection. It's so cold, Kira. So empty. I can't hold on much longer. Fight it, I told her, even as I felt my own strength draining away. You're stronger than this thing. But the Void Walker's laughter echoed through both our minds. She made a bargain, little guardian. Her soul for immortality. The contract is binding. The silver light around me flickered and dimmed. Each pulse weakened the seals further, bringing the entity closer to full manifestation. Soon, I'd have to choose, preserve the barriers that kept the Void Walker imprisoned, or save the people I'd grown to care about. That's when Marcus burst through a side window, his beta Daniel right behind him. Both men were covered in black ichor, their weapons smoking from recent use. Nice to see you're still alive, Marcus said grimly, taking in the scene, me locked in combat with the possessed Elena, Damon firing from the stairs at the creatures pouring through the door. Marcus, I gasped, silver light still pouring from my scars. The seals. I know about the seals, he interrupted. We found the prophecy chamber beneath the Shadowlands shrine. The real prophecy, not the edited version the councils have been passing down. My concentration wavered. What? The Guardian doesn't have to die, Marcus said fiercely. There's another way to restore the seals. But it requires. Elena's body convulsed, and the Void Walker's voice roared from her throat, enough. Dark power exploded outward, shattering what remained of the windows and sending everyone flying. When I struggled back to my feet, Elena was floating 3 feet off the ground, her body wreathed in shadows that seemed to eat the light. The final seal was breaking. Cracks of silver light appeared along my cheek where the Forsaken mark lay, and I could feel the Void Walker's prison door swinging open. In minutes, maybe less, the entity would be free to pour its full attention into this realm. The other way, I shouted to Marcus over the sound of reality tearing. What's the other way? True love, he called back, ducking as a possessed pack member lunged at him. Not the mate bond, that's just biology. True love, freely chosen, freely given. It can power the seals without. Elena's laughter cut him off. Too late. The barriers fail. Soon, all your little lights will join me in the beautiful dark. I looked at Damon, saw the desperate love in his amber eyes as he watched his mate's body being used as a vessel for ultimate evil. Then I looked at Marcus, my first mate, who'd spent 3 years searching for a way to save me from a destiny he'd helped create. 2 alphas. 2 different kinds of love. And somewhere between them, maybe the power to stop the end of everything. The final seal cracked with a sound like breaking glass, and the Void Walker began to step fully into our world. Time to find out if love really could conquer the darkness, or if we were all about to learn what the end of hope looked like. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. The world ended not with a bang, but with the sound of Elena's laughter turning into something that had never been human. The Void Walker stood in the ruins of the pack house, wearing Elena's body like an ill-fitting suit. Her blonde hair had turned silver white, her blue eyes now windows into an endless abyss. Dark energy rippled around her, and with each pulse, more pack members outside began to scream as shadows invaded their souls. Behold, the entity said through Elena's lips, its voice a harmony of destruction, the beginning of beautiful emptiness. I could feel it happening, the plague spreading through the psychic network that connected all werewolves. Pack bonds twisted into conduits for corruption. Across the continent, alphas would be falling to their knees as their people transformed into hollow vessels for the Void Walker's servants. The sealing ritual, I said to Marcus, silver light bleeding from my scars despite my efforts to contain it. Tell me how it works. Kira, no. Damon moved between me and his brother, his amber eyes fierce with protective fury. There has to be another way. Marcus looked between us, and for a moment I saw something flicker across his face. Regret? Relief? It was gone before I could identify it. The ritual requires the Guardian's life force channeled through the original scars, he said carefully. Each mark becomes a conduit, pouring your essence into the prison walls to rebuild them. But Kira. But I'll die in the process, I finished. I understand. Do you? The Void Walker's attention turned to me, and I felt the weight of its gaze like ice in my veins. Do you understand what you really are, little guardian? Not some noble protector, but a living key. A sacrificial lamb bred for one purpose, to die for the convenience of others. The entity gestured, and Marcus stepped forward. Not toward me, toward it. Marcus? Damon's voice cracked with disbelief. My former mate's expression was calm, almost relieved. I'm sorry it had to be this way, brother. But the old world is dying anyway. Better to embrace the new one while we still can. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. You've been working with it. All along. Not all along, Marcus said quietly. But for the past 3 years, yes. Ever since I found the real prophecy chamber and learned what the Silver Guardians truly were, not heroes, but prisoners. Living seals created by the first alphas to contain a force they were too weak to destroy. The Void Walker smiled with Elena's mouth. Marcus understood what I offered. Not chaos, but order. Not destruction, but transformation. A world where the strong truly rule, where death and decay are conquered forever. At the cost of every soul in existence, I spat. A small price for perfection, Marcus replied. I rejected you 3 years ago because I knew what you'd become, a martyr for a cause that was already lost. But if you'd stayed, if the pack had accepted you, you would have been content to remain hidden. The seals would have weakened anyway, but gradually. I needed you angry, desperate, powerful enough to serve your purpose when the time came. The silver light around me flared as fury burned through my control. Every moment of pain, every lonely night in exile, every scar I'd traced in mirrors while trying to understand why I wasn't worthy of love, it had all been orchestrated. The Alpha murders, I realized. You've been killing them to weaken the pack network, make it easier for the corruption to spread. Guilty, Marcus said with a slight smile. Though I must give credit where it's due, Elena's poison made an excellent delivery system. So much more efficient than hunting them one by one. Through our twisted psychic bond, I felt Elena's horror at learning how thoroughly she'd been used. Her consciousness was still trapped in there, watching her body serve the very evil she'd thought she was bargaining with. Kira, her voice whispered through our connection, I'm so sorry. I wanted to live, to love, to matter. I never wanted this. I know, I whispered back. I know. The pack house shuddered as more shadow creatures poured through the broken walls. Outside, the screaming had stopped, never a good sign. Enough talk, the Void Walker announced. The ritual begins now, willing or not. Dark energy lanced toward me, but Damon threw himself in its path. The shadow fire hit him full in the chest, and he crashed into the wall with a sickening crunch. Damon. I rushed to his side, silver light pouring from my hands as I tried to heal him. But the Void Walker's power was antithetical to life. Wherever it touched, flesh withered and soul light dimmed. Still breathing, he gasped, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. That's something. Don't you dare die on me, I said fiercely. I just found you. His hand cupped my cheek, thumb tracing the forsaken mark with infinite gentleness. Then don't let them make you a martyr. There's always another way, Kira. Always. Not this time. I pressed my forehead to his, breathing in his scent one last time. Cedar and rain and wild spaces, all the home I'd ever need. Some fights require everything. But as I started to pull away, Damon's grip tightened. Wait, he said. Marcus mentioned true love powering the seals. What if we don't have to choose between your life and the world? What are you talking about? A true mate bond. Not the biological recognition the moon goddess forces on us, but something deeper. Something chosen. His amber eyes burned with desperate hope. If we bind ourselves willingly, completely, it might amplify your power while sharing the cost. The Void Walker laughed, the sound like breaking crystal. Touching. But ultimately pointless. Love is just another word for weakness, and weakness cannot stand against the infinite dark. Maybe, I said, silver light beginning to build around us both. But I've been weak before. It didn't kill me then. I looked into Damon's eyes and made a choice that would either save everything or damn us both. I, Kira Thorne, choose you as my mate. Not because fate demands it, not because biology compels it, but because I love you. Your strength, your kindness, your refusal to give up even when everything's falling apart. The words hung in the air, glowing with their own power. Damon's smile was radiant despite the blood on his lips. I, Damon Blackwood, choose you as my mate. Your courage, your compassion, your ability to find light in the darkest places. I choose the scars that make you strong, the pain that makes you wise, the love that makes you unbreakable. The mate bond snapped into place, not the desperate hunger I'd felt before, but something warm and eternal. Power flowed between us, silver light mixing with golden alpha energy to create something entirely new. Now, I said, helping Damon to his feet. Let's end this. Marcus snarled and shifted into his wolf form, massive, black-furred, with eyes like molten gold. But the Void Walker's corruption had changed him too. Shadow writhed beneath his pelt, and when he opened his jaws, darkness poured out like smoke. You always were too sentimental, brother, Marcus's voice echoed from the wolf's throat. He lunged, claws extended to tear out my throat. But I was ready. Silver light erupted from my scars, not the wild, uncontrolled flare I'd used before, but precise beams that sliced through shadow like sword strokes. Marcus's corrupted form struck the light and rebounded, howling as holy fire burned away the darkness coating his soul. The guardian power, the Void Walker hissed. Impossible. The seals are broken. The old seals are broken, I corrected, raising my hands as more silver light poured through the scars. But we're making new ones. Damon joined his strength to mine, alpha power flowing through our mate bond to fuel the silver fire. Together, we began to weave new barriers, not the desperate containment spell of the first guardians, but something better. Something willing. The Void Walker shrieked as ethereal chains wrapped around Elena's possessed form. But these bonds weren't meant to imprison, they were meant to separate. To pull the entity's essence away from the innocent soul it was riding. Help me, Elena's voice whispered through our psychic link. I can feel it loosening. Just a little more, and I might be able to. The Luna's consciousness blazed with sudden determination. She threw herself against the Void Walker's control, fighting for dominion over her own body. The entity's hold wavered for just a moment. It was enough. I poured everything I had through the mate bond, all the love Damon offered, all the strength I'd built in exile, all the power contained in scars that had once marked me as worthless. The silver light became a torrent, washing over Elena's possessed form and carrying the Void Walker's essence away from her soul. The entity's true form materialized as the light struck it, a writhing mass of shadow and hunger, beautiful and terrible and utterly alien. It screamed as the new seals wrapped around it, dragging it back toward the prison dimension. This isn't over, it snarled as reality folded around its essence. There are others like me, older things that make me seem like a candle flame beside the sun. When they wake, your little lights will seem very small indeed. Then we'll be ready, I said calmly. The Void Walker disappeared with a final shriek of rage, the dimensional rift sealing behind it. Elena's body collapsed, her consciousness flickering back to the surface like a drowning woman breaking through to air. Marcus lay still in his wolf form, the shadow corruption burned away but his body broken by the feedback. He shifted back to human shape as I knelt beside him. "Kira," he whispered, his golden eyes dim but free of the darkness that had claimed them. "I'm sorry. For everything. The rejection, the manipulation, the—" "I forgive you," I said quietly. It was the truth. Anger was exhausting, and I'd carried enough of it for one lifetime. He smiled sadly. "You always were better than I deserved." Marcus closed his eyes and didn't open them again. 6 months later, I stood on the balcony of the new pack house, watching the sun set over a valley that had been rebuilt from ash and shadow. The Midnight Moon and Moonridge territories had merged under Damon's leadership, creating something stronger than either pack had been alone. Other packs were following suit. The Void Walker's brief manifestation had shown them the danger of division, the need for unity against threats that transcended petty politics. "Luna Kira?" A young voice called from behind me. I turned to find Sarah, Damon's former beta, now serving as my second, holding a stack of reports. The title still felt strange, but I was learning to wear it like the scars on my face, as a mark of strength rather than shame. "What is it?" "Strange readings from the Shadowlands again. The sensors we placed around the ancient sites are picking up, well, we're not sure what. But it's big." I nodded, not particularly surprised. The Void Walker's final words had been a warning as much as a threat. There were older things sleeping in the dark corners of the world, and our victory had likely served as an alarm clock. "Double the patrols," I said. "And send word to the other packs. We may need to accelerate the unity process." Sarah nodded and hurried away. I remained on the balcony, one hand unconsciously tracing the scars on my cheek. They glowed faintly silver now, a constant reminder of the power that flowed through them. But more than that, they were proof that wounds could become sources of strength rather than shame. "Brooding again?" Damon's voice was warm with amusement as he joined me on the balcony. "Thinking," I corrected, leaning into his solid warmth. "There's a difference." "If you say so." He wrapped his arms around me from behind, and I felt the mate bond hum with contentment. "The council meeting go well?" "As well as can be expected when you're trying to convince territorial alphas to share resources and information." I tilted my head back against his shoulder. "But they're learning. Slowly. They'll come around. You have a way of making people believe in better versions of themselves." I thought about Elena, recovering in the pack's medical wing but finally free of the corruption that had nearly destroyed her. About Marcus, whose sacrifice had helped seal the Void Walker even as his choices had nearly doomed them all. About the hundreds of pack members we'd saved from possession, now rebuilding their lives with quiet dignity. "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I just show them that scars don't have to be the end of the story." Thunder rumbled in the distance, though the sky was clear. In the Shadowlands, something was stirring. Something old and patient and infinitely more dangerous than the Void Walker had ever been. But tonight, we were safe. Tonight, we were together. And sometimes, that was enough to build a future on. I pressed my hand to the silver-bright scars on my cheek and smiled. Whatever came next, we'd face it the same way we'd faced everything else, together, unbroken, and stronger for the wounds we'd survived. The Luna's sacrifice hadn't been death, after all. It had been learning to live with hope. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.